what are like one or two attributes of the other person should show where you should give them a second chance after they mess up, regardless if it's just marriage or if it is a boyfriend girlfriend relationship?
Well, I'll put it to you this way.
Mm.
I have completely different advice for couples than I do with marriage. Marriage means you stood before God and your family and said, until death do you part. So you still alive, someone's in breach of the contract. Hey, so if you're a free agent and they're showing that they already have cracks,
Mm.
I mean, I wouldn't go into business with somebody if they already showed me they had problems with spending, or, you know, yeah. So if you're a free agent, I'm not advocating for sticking around. That's the point of dating, to see. Now, if they forgot your birthday, or, you know, they got upset and raised their voice, okay. But if they do a deal breaker, then it should break the deal, because you didn't even, it's not even deal breaker because you didn't make a deal. It should be a non-deal maker. So that's my answer.
So with you, it's just out of the window. So there's not a couple of things that if this person shows is like, you know what, maybe just be cautious.
If it's a deal breaker, so if the person's like, Jesus isn't real, I'm like, goodbye. If somebody's like, I just beat women on Tuesdays, goodbye. Like,
oh damn.
It's like if it's a character indication, like you're showing me you don't have integrity. To me, an integrity issue is different than an immaturity issue. If you consistently lie because you don't think people can handle the truth, or you're not comfortable with the truth, if you have a hard time keeping it in your pants, that's a bigger issue than actually not being able to keep it in your pants. That's a deeper psychological issue most people don't want to get into. And frankly, there's a problem in your relationship that no, they're not ready for that. Let me not say that. If you're married, though, I advocate for taking someone back even if they cheat. But there's context that needs to get into it. I have completely different rules when it comes to dating versus that. I say if you're not married, thank God and run for the hills.
If they are just pretty much just really, really sorry, if they're just showing a couple of attributes, do you give it a pass, or is this a nah?
For me, it becomes a long-term journey at that point. So no, until I've seen a completely different person, based on you just not receiving any gratification from me coming back. Like who you become and who you evolve into has nothing to do with me, and I have no power over that, right? And everybody can change. We've always heard about people changing and becoming better people and evolving, and we've experienced in our own lives that evolution. But that evolution has to be genuine. And a lot of times what we hear and what we receive from people after we break up from them is not evolution, but is remorse, it's regret. It's like guilt. It's an angst that they get from not being able to deal with the consequences of the actions that they gave to you. So if someone regrets being caught, or regrets the fact that I took it as far as I did, exiting them from, taking them out of my life, if somebody's just all in all a little bit guilty, right? But they wasn't guilty enough to not do it. They were just guilty enough to respond to me by, telling me how much they're sorry and all that. I don't give a damn about your regret. That doesn't help me. That's not evolution. That's not growth, right? That's not change. So for me,
that's consequences.
Right, absolutely. That's consequences. That's that ass whooping, right? Everybody cries during the ass whooping. It doesn't mean you're a better kid after it, right? And of course, there's a whole don't whoop kid, whatever. The point is this, right? I'm not one who immediately would take anyone back, but if I could see you maybe like 2 years down the line, and I'm seeing a different person, a different character, right? Different character development, different emotional intelligence, different coping mechanisms, different, more healthy ways of giving yourself the excitement that you thought I wasn't giving you, right? It just depends. Like, so when cheating is one thing. For me, cheating is a character flaw. I know people evolve. I know people grow. But you
Mm,
know, men, we're territorial. Once you give it to somebody else, it's theirs. I ain't got nothing to do with it. So there's no coming back for me from that. Just because I'm a normal, regular, everyday man, I'm unforgiving when it comes to that. It's the one thing
mm,
you can do. There was a study done by, and it was I guess it was a situational, whether it was a study, it was a college professor asked 100 or so kids in a big college dorm, um, half men, half women. How many of you women, what would you rather have? Your partner have an emotional relationship with someone, or your partner have a sexual relationship, a sexual
mm,
fling, just one time, not even a relationship, a fling. They asked the guys, which would you prefer? Your woman love a man and not sleep with him, or your woman sleep with the man one time and never speak to him again in her life? All of the men chose the emotional affair because a man's identity and a man's sense of masculinity as it pertains to his relationship has everything to do with his access and his access alone in exclusivity to his woman's
Yeah.
sexuality.
mm,
Now, every woman in the class, where about 80% of the women chose that their man would have a sexual encounter and never speak to the woman again because women
mhm,
value the emotional
Yes.
cheating as a bigger flaw and a bigger hit to her femininity, her
mhm,
humanity, and her value as a human being more than a man would, right? So men are okay with emotional cheating, women are okay with physical cheating if we have to choose one.
Yes.
Meaning, so of course, a woman is going to have a different answer than me, but I can tell you as a man, you can never come back from physical cheating because that's humiliating. That's some
Yeah.
guy I could walk past in the mall. He's like, "Yeah, I hit that dude, girl." Right?
mhm,
The shame that most women avoid in speaking about their sexual history when they're talking about whose business it is and who they've been with is passed on to
mhm,
their men through the relationships that he has. Through when I meet a guy, he's like, "Yeah, bro, you know Kevin's girl, man. Oh, the homie hit that, man, and the other homie hit that." I'm a conversation
mhm.
piece regardless. So you're avoiding shame,
Yep.
telling me it's none of my business, but I'm gonna get the shame regardless. And it should have been
Yes.
your shame, but now I'm the one who's trying to do the right thing, and I'm bearing the shame. I'm wearing the scarlet letter because I'm a sucker out here. In forgiveness, I need to see the evolution in the person, and it needs to be genuine to them saying, you know what, I need to change my life. I need to change who I am. I need to see genuine growth having nothing to do with whether or not I'm coming back because I'm gone. I'm all the way gone at that point. And when I come back and I see you at a Starbucks 2 years later, like, hey, how you been? Oh my God, you wouldn't believe. You know, I've been in counseling since we broke up.
Right.
It's really changed my
Mm,
life. You know, I'm seeing things differently. You know, I started a new job and I've been doing that career for a long time. And man, I've been
mhm,
abstinent, or man, I'm sober now, or like I need to hear those stories. I need the testimony, and it has nothing to do with me taking you back because I was gone. And then I can read. I know what you're made of. I know what good things existed. Now I know these other good things exist, and that trash is potentially out if at all it's ever convenient, it's ever possible, or it's ever a right decision, it has to be after a genuine long-term evolution having nothing to do with whether or not you're coming back.
I had a client today who was talking about the fact that she expressed she didn't like something. He tried to change his behavior. He would go for a while and then it would happen again. Then he'd go for a while and then it would happen again. And this is the understanding that I have at this point because I've been learning so much about human psychology and spirituality. If you've ever seen a tree that grows and it grows crooked, you can tie that string all you want. But the minute you let that string go, that tree is going to
Mm-hmm.
revert right back to its original position. Unless you actually get down to the roots and
Mm-hmm.
change it, no amount of holding will go. I liken it to trying to do a wall squat. I can have every intention. Like Kevin could say, my life is on the line. If you can do a wall squat for 24 hours, Yancy, I literally will be saved. I can have all the intentions in the world doing a wall squat for 24 hours. My thighs are giving out after like 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So unless you have an actual encounter, I say it's a divine encounter. When God changes you
Mm-hmm.
into somebody else, the evidence is there.
Right.
And two, you don't keep reverting back. When you're trying to do it in your own power and your own strength, you genuinely, out of love for the person, like, I'm gonna try to keep my pants, I'm trying to keep my pants. And then next thing you have a temptation, you're in it because you
Mm-hmm.
haven't had a change within. And so this is why I tell people, if you don't have divine energy and your partner doesn't have, you can forget about it. because it's just a matter of time before the shoe drops. It's human nature to mess up and hurt people and disappoint. But when you have divine energy, no matter how fine she is, you say no and you keep it in your pants. No matter how enticing that situation is to the guy, you're not flirting with him and making him your office husband. It requires something above human capacity to actually be a faithful and loving partner.
No, totally right. And I just want to go ahead and let the chat know I'm guilty as hell because I think I have 3 office wives and I know I'm bad for that, but hell, I didn't. Okay, moving on to the next one. Does age really play a huge part when it comes into the forgiveness of, we'll just say, cheating or financial irresponsibility? Because it almost seems as if, the older the couple are, the more forgiving for cheating are. But the younger, they're like, nah, plenty of fish in the sea, on to the next one.
So it's actually 2 different things. One, you would hope that wisdom develops over time. So I would hope it's experience and not the age alone, because we all know there's some really big kids. Their bodies are getting older, but their maturity level has stayed the same. And so I don't think it's time specifically, but I think it's the experience that is developed over time and also a perspective. So if a person, for example, has spent 10 years, now you have a vested interest in this person. If you have, let's just say 10 years of great times and there's a blip, it's a blip on a very long spectrum. If you only have a blip together, then the blip is like the majority of the relationship. So it's also perspective. It's also what is invested. Do we have property together? Do we have children together? What was the extent of the affair? Had I really been neglecting my husband and then he fell into it, I can kind of see how, that happened. Was I ignoring my wife and not giving her attention? And then here comes this Rico Suave at the office who's always got a listening ear and something else waiting for her. You also, when you're grown, you take accountability. When I tell you, I literally, if my husband asked me to kiss his feet, I would kiss his feet. When I tell you the regret and the remorse that I have for how asinine I was as a wife before I separated from him, I was so immature. I was so spiritually deprived that I was everything but possessed. Like I wasn't in my right mind. I'll put it that way. So I am a completely different person because God has shown me who I was. And when he shows you who you were, there is a level of brokenness that you cannot explain. I'm talking the snot, you are emphatically apologetic. And what I like to say when I apologize to people is, words are just the start, because you have to start with the words, but actions speak louder. And so I'm not even going to ask you to accept my apology. I'm going to show you a changed life.
Somebody mentioned fear of abandonment. And also we have some folks who are like fear of being alone. There's a popular YouTuber who always talks about dying alone. Is that playing a part when it comes to giving somebody second chances?
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a part for some people, right? I mean, we've all, as coaches, me and Yonci, have experienced a plethora of different types of people and people in such large numbers that we've experienced most scenarios going most different ways. I've noticed that the older clients I have who have a history, right? We always hear this word history. We listen to that history, and like she said, a 20-year timeline as opposed to a 2-year blip. I've noticed that older clients staring down the barrel of their mortality, right? Their youth slipping away. And I made these points in the video, and oh God, I pissed everybody off. But these are things and insecurities that people deal with, and they are real, and they determine what people do sometimes. Not everybody, but at the worst of us, the weakest of us, and at our weakest moment, we do consider those things like age and loneliness and how many cats we need, or how many support animals we might need, or how ridiculous what we've done is. And
support animals.
Stop it, Yonci.
The more they realize they don't want it, they can't deal with it, they would much rather do something by themselves and at least give themselves peace and tranquility. So age in both different directions and both extremes plays a part in it for both people making different decisions. Now, younger people, of course, we always think we got time on our side.
Yeah.
Everybody's leash is short because there's always more fish on Instagram, right? Or whatever social media platform or
Plenty of
Tinder.
fish.
Right, plenty of
Mm-hmm.
fish. Pick the dating platform. There's always another place. There's always more people. There's always more pictures of more perfect abs, more perfect asses, more perfect butts and breasts, and all of these different things. So yeah, of
Mm-hmm.
course, youthful people think they're going to be youthful forever, and you realize at one point, maybe when you gray over the span of a month, like you, like you did, uh, that you don't have all forever. You don't have eternity to get your shit together. You have to figure out
Mm-hmm.
who you're going to take shit from and if they're worth it. And unfortunately enough, what we don't get from these Hollywood movies and every relationship media is the whole story, right? Relationships are inconvenient. They're hard. They take a lot of work. They stretch us, they break us, they weaken us, they strengthen us. They have a lot of different things that they do, right? And you're going to take some shit. There will be some inconveniences that you think you shouldn't have to deal with at this point in your life. You're gonna have people who have a weakness that you just despise, that pisses you off, but they might give this other half of them is great, is wonderful. They're great partners. They have these other skills and these other gifts. They help in these other ways. They support. They're gifted in these other ways, but might have an Achilles heel that's ridiculous, like stupid.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what are we really? This is what we're talking about right now. Even so, when I say, like I always talk, people always ask about my wife or me in relationships in general. I always say that, my wife might drive me crazy. My wife get on my damn nerves sometimes, but she's the only woman I want to ever get on my nerves.
I think that's the other end of the spectrum. So you threw out the main stuff like beating, whatever. So because obviously that's the exception.
Mm-hmm.
However, I give this analogy and I say, when you are single, it is as though you live in an apartment with just 4 walls and no mirrors, no windows. You get to walk around looking crazy as hell and you never know. Then you get a relationship. It is like putting a mirror up on the wall. Now, when you pass by that mirror and you got icing on your face from the cupcake that you ate, you actually see that icing. Most people get horrified with the reflection they see, break the mirror, and get rid of it. Instead of going, oh God, that's on my face, and getting it off. So they get rid of that mirror and they feel good for a while. Back to my peace. And then eventually, like, you know what? I want that mirror. I want that relationship. They bring a new mirror in, and then they come in with bedhead. And they're like, oh, God. Break that mirror and get rid of that mirror. And we just keep throwing. And these relationships, the root word relate, is meant to be iron sharpening iron. I never knew I had an issue with impatience if I wasn't forced to be patient. I didn't realize I had an issue with lying until I keep getting busted lying. I see how it hurts people. I thought white lies were okay. I didn't realize I had a sexual addiction until my wife is begging me to stop looking at porn, and I realize I can't stop. Until you have someone that you're accountable to, you often don't have to look into the mirror. And that's why I walked away from my husband 7 years ago, because when I looked in the mirror, I got overwhelmed. And I said, my God, that's what you've been dealing with? This? You've had to look at this? And I said, you know what? I'm just going to deuce out, because at least I got a lot of it off of me and I can start fresh with the next person. But I just can't imagine, now that I see what I look like, that you still chose me. And you know what? He still chose me. He wasn't the one throwing me away, but I was so horrified by my own reflection that I voluntarily left the most unicorn black man I've ever met.
The sex play a huge part. Now, on the men's side, some men have been cheated on big time. And like you said earlier, we don't want to take that person back, but a lot of men do. They do. They act like they don't. But yeah, she got away with it once, maybe even twice, but we still keep it. But honestly, how often are we really, really like sprung on another person? We could throw the ladies in there, up in there as well. But does sex also, can it play a part, or is it a majority part of taking that person back? Is it that good?